Welcome to the Weigh In Podcast, your prescription for a healthier life, where wellness is more than just a number on a scale. We'll dive deep into not just weight loss, but the medical, emotional, and lifestyle aspects of well-being.
In each episode, we'll weigh in on hot topics ranging from diet myths and exercise trends to mental health and chronic disease management, providing you with the evidence-based advice to guide your health decisions. Remember, it's not just about the weight on the scale, but about creating a healthier, more balanced you. Hey, Katie, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you, friend?
Good. How was your Halloween?
It was good. It was good. It was tiring. Max is getting older. He had me walking all over the world, but it was. But yeah, no, it was. I got my steps in, and yeah, it was super fun.
Nice. What did you guys dress up as?
Well, you already know I was a princess. Max was, I can't.
Transformers.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Although, side note, when we were trick or treating, it was so cute. Like some of the older couples would be like, "I know it starts with a T," and I'd be like, "I'm right there with you. I keep forgetting to." So yeah, he was Optimus Prime from Transformers. It was very cute.
Oh.
I should not trick or treat, but he has been going to like little high school Halloween parties, and he's been Bowser this year, which is so funny. It's such like a fun costume for like a boy to do. He's got like this big like Bowser costume. So yeah, it was really nice. We enjoyed ourselves.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, mine was pretty low key too. Just went to a friend's place, but I dressed up as Totoro from My Neighbor Totoro because I had this onesie that I got so long ago, and so I was like, oh, let me get that. And then I don't know if you know the movie. It's a anime that came out. Gosh, it's I want to say in the 90s or 80s or 90s, but basically it's like this family that moves into a house. The mom is sick, and then she's like staying at some kind of nursing home. So the dad has these two daughters, and really interesting movie that I loved when I was little. Yeah, when I was little, I loved it. And then I watched it, I think last week, and I was like, gosh, it really loses its magic when you're older.
It's not the way you thought that it was back then.
Sorry, you cut out.
I figured when I heard the awkward silence, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and then so my husband just ended up dressing up as the dad because it was easier. Okay. It's just like a vest and glasses.
Did you guys post pictures? Why didn't I see this?
No, I haven't posted pictures yet, but I think Nick's editing
in
this
my text
episode.
Message inbox.
Yeah, we could put it up here because I think Nick's editing this episode anyway. So
ooh.
Yeah, you guys can see it.
Yeah, I miss Nick's editing skills. When I watch our episodes, for the past 2 episodes, I had to look at my face the entire time. Like, can I get some visuals?
Right?
I appreciate you so much more now, Nick.
Yeah, he really adds some magic onto the podcast. So
he really does. It makes it so like engaging and interesting to listen to.
Yeah. So for my news piece, if you guys know Lizzo, she's a singer. She's done quite a few songs that are really fun. And she's always been known about like body positivity, and she is overweight, but she rocks it. She loves it. And I love that about her. And so she had gone quiet for a little bit. Like, I know there was some controversy. She had some lawsuits with her dancers and stuff.
Yeah,
so
she got canceled briefly.
Yeah, she got canceled. So she was out of the spotlight, and she came back onto the spotlight September 18, like promoting a new, like she has this brand called Yitty. I'm guessing that's her clothing line. But she lost a lot of weight. And so, people are questioning, and she even mentioned it too. She addressed it on her Instagram. She was like, people think I'm doing Ozempic, but I've been just doing weight training and calorie deficit. So yeah, she's been looking good, but just, sad now. You have to just always, if you're famous, now that there's Ozempic out, people are just questioning like, oh, did you do it? They can't just applaud you for losing weight. However you lost it.
I actually, as an aside, I actually believe her. I think she really probably did do just diet and exercise. She started, I don't remember because I don't Instagram super hard, but this is not like her trying to like start healthy lifestyles started at least a year plus ago, I want to say. You would see her working with a trainer, but possibly could have even been even longer than that, where she was like trying to eat healthy. She was like working with a trainer. I'm guessing that maybe some of her motivation was having this line, which I think is mostly lingerie, and knowing that she was going to be like, doing a lot of like bra underwear type of like pictures and advertising. So I wonder if like that played a role. But yeah, her weight loss seems to have been very, very gradual. I think people just recently started to notice it, which happens when you lose a lot of weight, right? Where you're losing and nobody notices. And then suddenly one day, like everybody notices. So
Yeah,
good for
yeah.
her. She looks good.
She does. Yeah, and like you said, it's the first couple of months you don't see much, and then like finally, um, yeah, especially if she's been out of Instagram, out of the spotlight, like, you're not posting as much. So, but it's really cute for Halloween. She actually dressed up as her own brand of Ozempic to kind of make fun of those rumors. So it's like, need self-love, try Lizzo, lose guilt, gain confidence. So she
Oh, I
really
love
played
that.
into it. Yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I love to see it, and I agree with you. It shouldn't matter how she went about doing it. And actually, like, I don't know. I feel like to a certain extent, they shouldn't necessarily have to like explain themselves.
No.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, even prior to Ozempic or any weight loss drugs, people are always questioning anyway. How did they lose all this weight? It's always been a big thing. So it's just
And I'm sure
our
she probably
society.
feels like she can't win because I'm sure people are like, oh my gosh, you were supposed to be embracing the way you looked and then you lost the weight. So like you're not team big girl anymore. So like I'm sure she like is getting hit with both ends of that, you know?
Right. And I mean, if you guys haven't seen pictures of her, it's not like she's super stick, thin, skinny. Like Rebel Wilson, I feel like her transformation was
Yeah.
a lot more dramatic. So
Yeah, or like Jennifer Hudson, that was super dramatic when
yeah.
that happened way back when. It's not like dramatic in
Yes.
that way. She just, to me, she looks like healthier. So good for her.
What about you? What's your news piece for the week?
I feel like we've beaten Eli Lilly like continuously with like every conversation, like Eli Lilly, Eli Lilly, Eli Lilly. But it did have sort of like an earnings miss with a sharp stock drop this week. I think, it seems as though the reason is that maybe there was kind of like an over forecasting of how it would do. I think there was a thought that like, oh, like they don't have a shortage anymore. Like, you know what I mean? But I don't know if that kind of panned out the way that they maybe thought that it would. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how things evolve. And it seems like, I guess that they do have supply, but I don't know if their supply and demand is kind of like evened out. I don't know if there was like an over projection there or not.
Well, there was a lawsuit. I want to say it was a compounding pharmacy that started this lawsuit. And so it actually got the FDA to, how do I describe this? Kind of like pause that resolved issue that they had set.
They're reevaluating.
Yeah, reevaluating.
Which kind of gave the green light for people to kind of continue to compound is kind of what seems like what has happened in practice.
Correct. Yes. So yeah, it's just hard to say what the situation is. Like I know some clinics, myself included, sent out a notice because it had come out a couple weeks ago that it was resolved. But whenever it comes to FDA and all this, I don't want to like keep teetering back and forth because these situations can change so like from day to day. So hard to say where we're at right now. I would just suggest like ordering as much as you can through your clinic just to kind of tide you over so you don't have to worry about it. But the situation changes like week by week. So it's hard to really say if we're okay for now or not.
Yeah, it is hard to say. And also because this kind of deviates from what we've seen historically happen. Like usually it takes a while for a drug to be marked as resolved on the FDA shortage list. So I think it threw all of us kind of for a loop when it happened. And so it makes it hard to predict like what's going to happen next just because we didn't expect the initial at all. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what will happen, but I do know that, yeah, a lot of my clients have ordered ahead. And I've just tried to keep them abreast like whenever I get news. That's all we can do.
And same with Novo Nordisk. They may follow suit also. And I'm sure they're trying to also have the FDA put their shortage as resolved as well. So I just wouldn't be surprised if it's something that will happen with semaglutide. But again, I mean, there's always different weight loss options out there. Injectables aren't the only one, even though they're really good. And as far as side effects go, like a lot better, but there are other options out there. So we got you covered.
Yeah, this is very interesting to see. I think we've always been pretty confident that semaglutide wouldn't go anywhere, but I think Eli Lilly's sort of whole getting off of the resolve list has made everybody start to second guess everything. So TBD on everything, but yes, there's always tons and tons and tons of other weight loss options. And I know Zarina is kind of the same, where you're kind of able to offer your clients pretty much anything, if it's a reasonable weight loss solution. So there's always tons of options, and I'm kind of the mindset of like, don't stress over things that you can't control. Right now we're able to get access to both drugs, so focus on your weight loss journey. I know if you're a patient of mine, I'm like, you focus on the weight loss, I will take care of the rest. We'll get there when we get there, but you focus on hitting that goal.
Exactly. You may remember today's guest from episode 7, Casey Thomas. He is a dietitian, and we brought him back for a holiday special. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's are coming up, and we know it's going to be a battle this time of year, especially if you're going through a weight loss journey. He will share tips for enjoying all the holiday flavors while still feeling our best. From managing indulgent meals to finding a balance between treats and nutrition, we'll cover how to enjoy the holiday season without the usual stress or guilt. So whether you're looking to enjoy your favorite holiday dishes guilt-free, or just want to keep some healthy routines in place, stay tuned. This episode is packed with strategies to help you make the most of the holidays, one mindful bite at a time. Welcome back to the show, Casey.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. It's always it was fun last time, so I'm glad you guys invited me to be back.
You were a crowd favorite. All my patients were like, when are you gonna have that handsome, smart young man come back on the podcast?
Yeah, trying to butter me up. I'm sure you say that to everybody. Oh.
Only one. I was like, oh, Casey, because like they don't care about like our most recent episodes. No one's talking about. We just had like Shara on the podcast. They all want Casey. They do love Shara, who's my employee who's been losing weight, who's been visiting, but they love them some Casey. So we are so happy to have you.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's a nice time to do it too, just because I do get a lot of these same questions from a lot of my clients as well. So it definitely seemed like a nice little time appropriate kind of recording and session here.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of the biggest questions that we had for you are, what are the biggest pitfalls you see people falling into when it comes to maintaining healthy habits during the holidays? So what are like some common sort of like bumps in the road you see people have?
The absolute biggest one, and I think all of the subsidiary issues kind of stem from this, is just the routine feels different, and you can no longer maintain your normal routine across holidays. And I don't want to say that holidays are bad. I love holidays. I love holiday season. But a lot of people find that during normal year time, they can hit the gym when they want to, they can eat what they want to, they can stick to their consistent sleep times, they can stick to their consistent eat times. Like everything is just business as usual. And once the holidays hit, then it's like everything just kind of goes out the window. No one knows what to do. You may be traveling, you're around friends and family, maybe they're instigators, you're around all your old favorite family dishes, you got all your grandmas with their secret recipes and all this kind of stuff, right? I do want to just like acknowledge also that inherently food is very emotional, social, community, cultural. Like there's a huge personal piece to food. And so with holidays, like I just want to acknowledge that. Like I'm not here to be super food police and tell you, oh yeah, say no to your grandma's secret recipe, and just I'm not going to touch that grandma. Like she'd probably smack me upside the head and then go cry in the corner and be sad about it, because like it's very personal and deep. And so I'm not here to do that. But what I will say is I have many, many clients who have these periods where they essentially just fall off the wagon and then stay off the wagon and then feel really guilty about it. And, come New Year's, and then they're like, now I'm going to, do my New Year's resolutions. And so I just want to say, like on the front end, I think if it's stopping you from hitting your goals and you're going to feel guilty about it afterwards, we should look to change it. Because that's a problem. Like you shouldn't feel guilty, and you shouldn't have it stopping you or like making you take a few steps backwards. If you don't feel guilty about it and everything is fine, then usually I'm okay with it, because you chose that for personal health reasons or for your personal reasons, and that's okay. But yeah, so I'd say like missing out on the routine is probably the number one issue. And then number two is overeating. Obviously at the holiday, there's just like an abundance of food. And then number three would basically be the continued overeating that occurs, because usually it's like, okay, it's not just one day. It's like, okay, well, I have 10 days leftovers after Thanksgiving. And so every single day for the next few weeks after that, and or I'm traveling and, I'm going to go hit up all the fun spots in town. So it's it's not just the holiday, it's like the entire holiday period that a lot of people have issues with. And I think it all stems from just that break from normal routine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. For Thanksgiving itself, I think people kind of trip themselves up there too. They're like, oh God, I ate so much that day. And then, well, what can I do today? It's like, well, I'm just going to keep eating that. But one day is not going to mess up anything, you know? So I guess don't feel guilty over that. Like, definitely enjoy that time with your family, enjoy the food. But even if it went over your calorie count or whatever you're normally eating, like one day is not going to mess you up, like as long as it, like you said, you go back to that routine.
I think the point that Casey's making, which I think is so true, honestly, it probably isn't even the day. It's those like days following where like you have right. Think about like Halloween, right? A lot of people like barely eat their Halloween candy on Halloween, but now everybody has their Halloween candy in their house staring at them. And like, this is, I think, what the biggest issue is.
It's actually physiologically, it's like, it's the amount of damage you can do in one single day is so negligible. It's only when you have a protracted period of time where you can continuously, I guess I'll say like make bad choices against your goals, then that's where problems start to arise. But across one single day, it's physiologically, like there are certain limitations to how much fat you can build in one single day. And it's not a lot. Like you could go absolutely the craziest of crazies on one single day, and there's just not a whole lot that can actually be done. When you fall off the wagon, you stay off the wagon, and you do that for weeks on end, that's where the bigger issue is 100%. And there is like a little, like I think today I'll probably be talking about some mindsets. It's funny because there's like an analogy that I sometimes give to my clients, which is if you have a flat tire, you go out and you fix the tire, and that's it. You just replace the tire. You don't get mad at that one tire and then go slash your other three tires because you're just like, in a fit about it. And most people do that with their nutrition. They're like, well, I had one really bad meal, so to hell with it. I'm just going to like ruin all my other meals because I'm already off, and it's just like kind of silly when you think about it. It's like, why? There's really no reason to. It's just one meal. And, I said one day is hard to do, too much to go backwards on your goals. One meal is like, come on, like you literally, maybe a couple grams of fat get added to your body. It's like not a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it in perspective. So what do you suggest for people to prepare ahead of time to avoid unhealthy choices at holiday parties or gatherings?
Yeah, I think there's a few things you can do. So the first and best thing that you can do is really just prepare. And I think having an acknowledgement. So like in the psychological field, we talk about these terms like lapse and relapse. Lapses are 100% likely to occur. They will happen. And that's just a one-off. On the other hand, relapses and continual relapses are problematic and need to be addressed. Like talking to people and just getting them mentally aware that, okay, there's going to be periods where I don't follow whatever the game plan is that I am doing this. And I have to acknowledge that. And that's okay. Like a one-off, right? Like a one-off Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, that's okay. But now, once you have that acknowledgement already in place, then I do think the next step is to identify whatever your high-risk situations are. So sometimes the holiday itself is the high-risk situation. But I would challenge people to be a little bit more specific than that, right? Like you can't just say, oh, the holidays are high-risk for me. It's like, okay, it's a great starting point, but let's really drill down into it. Is it, is it your aunt who's like trying to force feed you food because she hasn't seen you in a while or something? Is it you posting up next to the dessert table and you just can't help yourself and you just, eat like half of everything that's on there? Is it some kind of stressful situation? Like maybe it's a memory of something that, maybe the holidays are hard for you. So there's got to be something that's a little bit more specific than, oh, it's just the holidays. And so I would challenge people to, on the front end, develop that awareness for what are my high risk situation triggers. And then once you're aware of those things, that's going to better prepare you to acknowledge and recognize them when you're in the moment. And that's how you can actually try to change those things when they come up. Typically in preparation for parties or, holiday events and those kind of things, I will say that it helps to do, depending on you, there's a couple strategies that I might recommend. So one is if you just know it's going to be this party, this event, whatever, I'm going to go crazy. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to go crazy, Casey. It's like, okay, all right. So if you know that, then you can actually maybe borrow around in the rest of that day and like the day after. And by that, I mean, potentially you could reduce your intake for like breakfast and lunch, and then at dinner be like, okay, I've allowed myself to have a lot more latitude with this meal because I just haven't eaten as much. Another thing you could do is do a workout before you go to this thing where you say, I know I'm going to feast. We know that your muscle tissue is more sensitive to uptake of a lot of nutrients after you do a workout. So if you do a workout right before you go to your Thanksgiving feast, your muscles are going to eat some of that for you, which is nice. So it's like, okay, it's going to eat it, and then it's not going to get turned into fat. So you can do that too. Sometimes people, however, are not like that.
Sorry, I have a question. Will they get less benefit if they work out after sort of their Thanksgiving meal?
It's a great question. The short answer is a little bit less, but there are different and unique benefits to the after the Thanksgiving meal. Now, I would say this is somewhat of a rare situation because at least I know me, I'm like tryptophaned out and I want to go take a nap after a big old
I'm ready for a nap for sure.
So it's a little bit rare to see that, but we do know that if you do some light bit of physical activity after you exercise, then that can actually help out with some of the digestive processes. And so usually what I would recommend is like a 10-minute walk after your meals in general anyway. This helps keep things regular on the bowel movement side. This helps with like blood sugar processing. This helps with absorption of the nutrients. Like it helps out with a lot of different things. So definitely is something to consider if it's something that you like to do. Like if you like to go work out after you go eat and it's not going to make you throw up, then like, okay, go do it. It's fine. For most people, I would say the better time before a big feast though is to work out beforehand.
Agreed.
And then on the flip side, so maybe you have someone who says, okay, well, it's not actually that I'm going to feast no matter what at this event. It's I'm just really hungry at this time point of day, or I get I get a lot of cravings that develop when I'm around these things. And so I just can't say no when I'm there. If that describes you, then usually what you can actually do is try to eat like a small meal, but like right before you go. A small, nice, healthy kind of balanced meal. And if it's something that's somewhat appetizing to you, what you can actually do is you can reduce some of those food cravings that'll happen when you're actually there. So if that's what you need to help you out, I might say, okay, drink a big old glass of water and then have like a very small, like healthy, maybe either a large snack or a small meal, like that kind of thing. And that'll help alleviate some of those cravings that you might actually have beforehand. So that way you're not just trying to manage hunger and cravings rather than just like the event itself, I guess. So those are probably the two big strategies I would say on the front end in order to prepare. But the number one thing I would hope people do is just to recognize your high risk situations and then try to plan around that too. Getting that mental awareness goes a long way.
I love those ideas because there's turkey trots that, you could sign up for. You could do a little 5K or something, and you don't even have to run it. You could just walk it if that's something you're interested in. If you're that type of family. Another suggestion that Katie had.
You can make those workouts like part of your family thing. Like we do we do like the Peloton, like turkey burn workouts. I make my mom do it. My kids do it before we actually eat. And you can make it like a family thing. It can be fun for what it's worth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Katie had mentioned this before, but before you go to any event, like even if it's not Thanksgiving, if it's like a business thing and you're going to snack, like have a protein shake before you go there, and that'll help kind of stave off the cravings a little bit too. So yeah, those are great ideas.
I'm definitely a fan of these like high satiety options that tend to do a pretty good job at minimizing those cravings. So things like nuts, things like protein bars, just like making sure you're overall staying hydrated, all that definitely goes a long way and will make sure that you're not craving nearly as much during the actual event.
Yeah,
for sure. But I think you really hit the nail on the head with like figuring out what your key barriers are, because it lets you attack the issue better. Like a very common one that I get from my clients is my mother-in-law is going to make me eat all this food and nothing I say, she's going to be so offended if I don't. And so I tell them like, not that this is the best advice, but I say, come up with your excuse in advance so that you don't feel like you're lying on the fly. Whatever that excuse is, if you feel like saying I'm trying to eat healthy or whatever, blah, blah, isn't going to hit home, or you don't want to tell her that, then come up with your excuse like, in advance, whatever that is. Like, oh, we're going somewhere after this. Oh my gosh, I just ate. But come up with some level of preparation about like what you're going to say so that it doesn't feel so anxiety inducing, so that you have your answer prepared and you don't have to worry about offending anyone.
That's a great suggestion that I've given also. And I love that. And if you want to like crank that up a little bit. If you are truly trying to do something with your life, with your health, with your nutrition, like whatever it is that if you're genuinely like, it's really important to you. You're like, hey, I'm on this weight loss journey. This is very important to me. I think it is fair and important that you have conversations with those who are around you. So that way they know that, hey, this is important to you. And you ask them for their support. Like you say, hey, genuinely, like, I just want you to be supportive of my health goals. Like, this is important to me. Can you please respect that and support me on this? And when you have those kind of conversations with these people who maybe are a little bit problematic or instigators on the front end, then that can, it's a tough conversation to have, to say, hey, auntie, can you please not try to force me to eat this thing? Like, this is, really important for me. And every year you try to force me to eat these things. I think that can help too, if you have those kind of like mature conversations with them on the front end. There are a couple people in my family I don't know that I could personally do that with. It'd be very tough to have that kind of conversation.
I think the hard part, like when you mentioned the aunties, like the ones that you don't really see too often, and they're just like so pushy. I think it's true of any culture, but especially like, gosh, Filipino culture is just like, but that's our way of like, giving love. And then when you say no, that's like, oh, you're not accepting my love. And so it can be very tough in certain cultures too.
That's exactly the issue with Jamaican culture, because my family is Jamaican. Same thing. It doesn't matter like what I say. I would have to come up with my excuse. And side note, I've come up with some pretty elaborate excuses like in advance, so as to not offend. And also, I just get so stressed because I hate lying. So I have to kind of like prepare it in advance. And you have to think of something that I know would not be something that's going to like cause like an additional argument, right? So I know, for example, if you're from a culture where like elders are respected, something that I've done before, I'm not saying to do this, is I've said like, oh my goodness, my husband's mother just sent all this food beforehand and I had to try some of it and now I'm not that hungry. And because she will understand the importance of, not being disrespectful by not eating that food, I get a little bit more leniency when I'm not eating the entire table.
Good default that I've seen is just like you're having some kind of stomach issues. Most people don't want to ask too many questions about that. So.
Like, to ask. I gotta run to the bathroom if I have this. I can't.
Also, a great way to be able to like slide out of an event early if you like don't want to be there all night. Better might happen than yours.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what advice do you have for people who struggle with the portion control piece during meals?
The first I would say is, that can actually help out is on the front end. If you are struggling with managing portions, then just making sure that you're not walking in absolutely ravenous, right? But once you're actually there are some things that you can do too. So one of the things that helps out is if you just drink a glass of water, like 10 to 15 minutes before you plan on actually eating, that artificially fills up your stomach with 0 calories. And then once you actually layer some food on top of that, you're going to trigger those stretch receptors in your stomach, which gives a feedback cue to your brain, which says, hey, I'm more full than, I'm reporting more fullness than maybe you actually are, because it's being, fake filled up by this water. So that's one. Another one is to just try to use like some smaller plates and, not just like absolutely top it off, like on the front end, just be very mindful about that. When you're reaching for portions, if you have the option to just like portion control yourself on the front end, that can help out a lot. Another one would be just slowing down how much time it takes you to actually chew and swallow. They did a study where they forced people to like count how many chews they did per bite. And it was like, all right, we're going to tell you to like double the amount of chews you do per bite. And it got to like a ridiculous number. I think like some people were having to chew like 50 to 100 times per bite, which I mean, that I don't know how I would have the patience for that, but it drastically reduced the amount of calories that they ate, because the chewing actually gives you a signal to your brain that you're eating a lot more than you really are, which also has the upshot of, one, you're going to eat less, right? Obviously. But 2, it's going to be digested a lot better because you've broken it down into such small things. And some people have some GI issues because they just like, swallow the thing whole, and then their stomach has to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So and there's some labs that I'm in contact with, and they're trying to develop a tech where it's like either like a glasses or like a earring type device that will be able to pick up on your chews, and then it can like give you that feedback, so that way you can know, and be like eventually tied to like a little app, and like hey, like you need to add more cheese. Anyway, it's something that like I don't know if it's gonna pan out, but there's a surprising amount of data behind this chew thing. But at a minimum, just slow down and like really try to savor and appreciate the food. And I think that a lot of people try to scarf down their favorite foods on holidays, and it's like, why not actually take a second and enjoy your food? You know, like don't just like shovel it in there. Enjoy it. Another thing I like to recommend is waiting before grabbing seconds. Sometimes your body doesn't give you the feedback cues for the fullness right away. So you need to give your body some time to catch up and realize it's full. So normally I say wait at least 15, 20 minutes between after you're done with the first plate before you go grab seconds, and really make sure that you actually genuinely do want seconds. On the actual food options, the highest satiety nutrients that we have are fiber and protein. So anytime you can leverage into those on the front end, that's going to prevent hunger as you progress through the meal. So you'll fill up a lot faster if your plate is just pure turkey and broccoli or whatever, in contrast to anything like if you're going to have the rolls and the pies and all this kind of stuff first, you're going to keep wanting, your body's going to tell you that it wants to keep eating, in contrast to if you front load with a lot of protein and veg. So I would usually say front load the protein and veg and eat as much of that as you possibly can anyway, and give your body very little room left over for, the sweets and treats on the back end and all that kind of stuff. So those are probably my biggest strategies. Yeah.
So Casey, hypothetically, not to put you on the spot, but if you were on a diet, you were trying to lose weight, you're doing a high protein, low carb diet, you're going to a Thanksgiving dinner, and there's turkey, there's vegetables, there's cornbread, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, apple pie, pumpkin pie. Well, add in sweet potato pie too, right? Tell us what you would be putting on your plate.
So,
and what your thought process would be.
Yeah, my thought process would generally be to start with the protein and veg. So I would try to make generally with that, if I'm trying to be mindful of my diet, I try to make anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of my plate be just that. So like 75% of the plate is my protein and my veg. And then the quarter of my plate that's left over, I'm probably, for me personally, from all the options that you listed, the thing I would have to absolutely have is the mashed potatoes and gravy. I would have to go for that. So that would for sure be my quarter. I probably wouldn't even look at the other stuff yet. I can't remember all of the options that you listed, but
would that be your quarter with the apple pie then no longer, is that considered a separate plate, or is that like the mashed potatoes is instead of the apple pie?
I would probably make my first plate be this. This is my first plate that I'm doing. And then for me, I probably would go back for some pie on the back end as like a dessert. And that would be, I would wait a little bit though. And then depending on how hungry I am, I would say, okay, let's actually, instead of beforehand, maybe I was going to make a quarter of my plate be apple pie. Now, when I've waited 15 minutes and, I actually recognize that I'm full, now maybe it's like, half of that size. Maybe it's 1/8 of a plate size of a slice of pie. I love a good apple pie though. So apple pie is the one that I would get. I like it. It's genuinely probably my favorite combination is like apples and cinnamon. So like that's just like, I love that. I've had that since I was a child. And so I absolutely would be reaching for the apple pie as my dessert option. But yeah, I'd probably, that would be like a second plate that I would go back and grab if I wanted to have a little bit of dessert. And I'd allow that. I mean, like basically what I ended up doing with the plate that I just constructed right there is I had one full, healthy, balanced meal. And the only thing extra that I really did different on that day was I had 1/8 of a slice of, apple pie, or 1/8 of a pie worth of apple pie. And that's not going to do any appreciable amount of damage. It's like what, 300 calories maybe. Okay. All right. I overate 300 calories. Who cares? I was hanging out with my family.
Now, Casey, to make it a little bit more spicy here.
Okay.
Now you're there, you're at this event and there's wine, there's champagne, there's beer, there's vodka and whiskey. And everyone's like, oh my God, Casey, like you have to have a drink. We haven't seen you in so long. We need to be able to cheers. So like, what are you doing?
So
are you saying no altogether, or are you going to pick something different?
So alcohol is really interesting to me because I generally don't actually like the flavor of a lot of the alcohols that are out there. And it's not, I will personally only drink socially. Like I can't even recall a time in my entire life where I've ever just like independently gone and reached for some kind of alcohol for myself. I just don't like the taste of it. So, but I'll do it socially, just socially. And that's about it. But at an event like this, and I know there are a lot of pressures, alcohol's a little bit different than food because there are genuine issues with like alcoholism and, alcohol dependence, and also just people who've in the past maybe had some issues with it. And it does hold a lot of people back. So the first thing that I'll say is, if you're going to have alcohol, try not to have it on the front end of the meal, because alcohol does decrease your inhibitions and leads you much more likely to violate those rules and those plans that you set up on the front end. So you're more likely to just say to hell with it and just kind of go crazy and make your entire plate be the apple pie or something like that. So try not to have alcohol on the front end of these kind of events. Try to have it after you've already eaten. That's going to protect you from a lot, because your stomach's not going to be able to accommodate any full degree of extra, a third or fourth plate of that after that. So try to have the alcohol on the back end. The second thing is, alcohol independently has its own kind of issues. And one way that I always tell people to modulate their alcohol intake is to say, there's 2 rules that I like. So for people who are dieting, usually I would say for men, follow the 2x2 rule, and for females, follow the 1x2 rule, which means for men, no more than 2 occasions in a week where you're drinking alcohol. And at each of those occasions, no more than 2 drinks. So if you do the math, that's 4 drinks on the week. For ladies, it's 2 drinks on the week. So no more than 1 day on the week where you can have alcohol, and no more than 2 drinks at that one particular occasion. So if you walk in and you're following, say, that rule, then okay, at this holiday party, I'm going to have no more than 2 drinks, but I'm allowed 2 drinks if you want them. But my additional rule on top of that is, for every 1 drink of alcohol, you have to match it with a glass of water. So you drink your 1 glass of water, or you drink your 1, let's say you have a beer. All right, I'm going to go drink an equal amount of water before I'm allowed to go back for my second beer. So those are some rules that'll help you, is like, put it after the meal. Know on the front end how much you're going to allow yourself to drink. I'm not here to say no alcohol, but there are some people where alcohol is definitely not appropriate, especially if they've had a history of, alcoholism in the past and all this. So you do want to be respectful of that. And then drink your water around the alcohol as well too. And then the extra thing that I'll just answer is, for me, if it's a holiday party, I'm reaching for eggnog. I'm not reaching for the other stuff, because eggnog has a very special place in my heart. So if I'm going to allow myself some booze and it's at the holiday time, like, I'm 10 times out of 10 going for the eggnog. So that's me personally.
Love that. For me, I reach for whatever my mom is reaching, just because I just I don't know, I want to identify with her, and I don't really care. So if she's drinking red wine, I'm like, oh, I'll have red wine too. So that's cool. That was so helpful, Casey. Those are really amazing tips.
The one extra layer that I'll also add into is, if you are okay with it, not everyone's okay with this, but drink for drink, the spirits have the fewest amount of calories. So, I mean, like, if you're like, oh, the choice is between this margarita or this Long Island iced tea or, some mixer or something, right? Like, or can I stomach, like some whiskey neat or something like that? The spirit is going to be like 1/3 the calories of the other stuff. So that would be the recommendation for someone trying to lose weight, is like, maybe have some like vodka with some like sparkling water or something, or
right,
some,
not like rum and Coke.
Yeah,
the Coke would be just too much sugar, too many calories.
Yeah. So in general, that's the direction I would go with that too, if you're comfortable with that. But I think I would put more importance on like the 2x2, 1x2 rule, rather than trying to modify the drink. Like, if it's a holiday party, you're probably going to be reaching for whatever's available. So, I understand those realities.
Yeah. And kind of going back to what we were talking about like having an excuse, because sometimes there's some families that just pressure you. Let's do shots, especially if they're really heavy drinkers, and then you feel a little pressure to partake in that. Just have your excuse ready. Like, sorry, not doing it today.
There is some fun data. So around this, it's harder to do this around food, I would say, but around alcohol, there's a lot of data around mindset shifts for the individual. If you say, oh yeah, I'm really trying to limit my alcohol intake, I'm sorry, I can't do this, then what happens is you're far more likely to drink it. Versus if you say, don't drink alcohol anymore. Like, if you say, I am a person who doesn't drink alcohol, then you're far more likely to reduce your intake, because now you're identifying as this type of person who just carries out this type of behavior. And if you violate that, there's like a certain measure of cognitive dissonance that occurs. So they always say, like, if you're trying to do a new habit, identify as the person that does the thing. You say, I am someone who doesn't drink anymore. Like, I don't drink. If you just say I don't drink, then people, like, that shuts up a lot of people. Even family, like if they say, oh, hey, do you want to take shots? You're like, oh yeah, I don't drink, sorry. Then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, cool. And the conversation usually ends right there. But if you say, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't, then they're gonna be like, oh, come on, just one, So if you just like vary on the front and say, I don't drink, then that usually shuts up most people.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, I love that,
really great tip.
because that's kind of like the difference of like, oh, I might do this versus I will do this, So I like that little shift.
I'll also add that I know we were talking about like having excuses prepared, but as an aside, I'm somebody who does not drink very much, and I can tell you that I feel like when I'm at these events, I feel like I don't need to explain, because I feel like a lot of times people just don't notice. So like I might take a glass of wine and I might sip on it, but I used to think I needed to explain myself, and then I realized that nobody really cares. So I would just have like a sip or two, and then sometimes people don't say anything at all. And then if they do, then you have your excuse ready. But sometimes people just don't notice, or they don't care.
Yeah, literally, this is what I used to. So I have a lot of like business guys who I work with as well, and they tell me, so alcohol, it's like outside of holidays, but it kind of relates to this conversation. They're like, I go to these business meetings where it's expected that I engage in this drinking with them, and otherwise there's like a real risk that I don't get this business deal. And I'm like, that's somewhat silly, right? That there's this culture around that, but that's a reality that he had, these clients have to deal with, is like, hey, I have to do this. This is what's needed for the business right now. And I say, okay, well, to your point, you can definitely get away with like a fake drink, right? Like you go to the bar, you go order the drink or whatever. And, if you literally just get like, if you're trying to, you can make an imitation, say like vodka soda, right? Which is just the vodka with like some mint and like some, sparkling water. Just get the sparkling water with the mint, and no one's gonna be the wiser. You're literally drinking sparkling water. They're gonna think you're drinking vodka soda. No one's gonna know. Literally, no one's gonna know, and they're gonna not pressure you into drinking more because they see you sipping on your beverage already. So you can definitely fake it if you need to.
So true. That's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Casey, do you have any tips for stress eating prevention, especially when holiday stress is high?
I think going back to the mindset, recognizing what your triggers are. If you have genuine, real, like deep-seated stressors that are occurring in and around holidays, I think, you probably need to seek some like professional help on that side. But if it's on the more minor side, I think that just acknowledging what your triggers are on the front end and trying to game plan for those is always a good move. If you have the chance on the front end with a practitioner as well to just role play this, like you can role play scenarios and actually prepare for them in the same way that you train for marathon or whatever. You can train for this event that's coming up, and you can say, okay, if my auntie comes at me, this is what's going to happen. Or like if this is a conversation, this guy, he has too many drinks and I know he's going to say some things that get everyone heated, whatever it is, right? Like you can kind of prepare for those situations in advance and just come up with, not your excuse, but maybe like your mental fortification strategies in place. So that way, hey, I'm recognizing this, I'm starting to get a little, stressed out, like let's de-escalate the situation. I would say that stress is very common. Stress eating, even more common. And people will reach for food to try to alleviate those stressors. So when you pair up a holiday stressor with an event that has an overabundance of unhealthy food items that, give you that dopamine kick and make you feel all fuzzy for a little bit, it's like a 1-2 punch for dangerous eating. And I think if you have the awareness, and then you also have developed and cultivated some alternative non-food-based stress relief strategies, that's your best protection. And by that, I mean, for me, my favorite like de-stressor is just going for a quick walk. Like, even if it's at a holiday party, right? And if you notice you're getting a little bit heated, just go for a walk, 5 minutes outside, right? No one's going to notice that you're gone. Be like, oh yeah, I had to step out, take a call. And then just like, that's it. And you just go walk around for 5 minutes, and you can come back and you're usually recentered. Some people like to do like quick little like meditation routines or, different things like this. So, maybe it's listening to your favorite song, go sit in your car for 5 minutes, listen to a song, whatever it is that you want to do, like go do what you need to do, some non-food based de-stress routine, whatever works for you, practice it and try to leverage it. And as long as you acknowledge and know when your stressors are coming up, usually that'll help you get through the party. Outside of that, I mean, if it's like really, really serious, following the protocols I said already before will protect you from, taking a couple steps back. And then also, if it's really serious, then, working with a dedicated professional to make sure that you know how to appropriately manage stressful situations.
Yeah, I love that about stepping out, because I think when you're in that environment, it's easy for you to, fall off the wagon, and the food's right there, it's accessible, and then you go crazy. So I think taking that time to just refocus, and because when you're stressed, I mean, you have all these thoughts running through your head, and then food is just your comfort for some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I love that about walking and just getting some fresh air. I'm sure there's something to be said about that too. And then after you eat your meal, maybe go for a little walk too. I mean, people have been doing this recently. It's kind of been a little viral trend where after dinner in general, they just walk and they call it like a fart walk because they're so bloated, So yeah.
Wow.
I have not heard that term before. That's amazing.
Me either.
Yeah.
TikTok, I swear.
Casey, one of our other questions was, and this is an interesting one because I have mixed feelings about this. The question is, what are some healthy-ish alternatives to classic holiday dishes that won't make people feel like they're missing out? And I'm one of those people who is like, just don't eat like a weird fake Twizzler, just eat the Twizzler type of person. So I'm interested in what your thoughts are on this in terms of alternatives.
I would say some of my personal favorite healthy alternatives, if you have that true choice, really just like sweet potatoes with cinnamon. I think that feels really good, and as an alternative to like the the melted marshmallows on the yams and all that kind of stuff.
Candied yams.
The candied yams. Like, I don't think you really need, there's so much sweetness already in a sweet potato that genuinely, for me, like when I eat it, it's kind of like candy. So I really like that. Sticking, I guess, with the potato theme, I challenge you to try this with like your friends and family. But if you do like a half substitution of the potato for like cauliflower, most people don't notice that like their mashed potatoes are now actually like close to like a cauliflower mash. What else?
I know people are like obsessed with cottage cheese, and they try to put that in a lot of things now.
One thing that I really have taken to doing, and people don't seem to be upset by that, is sometimes if like we're hosting a lot of like dark chocolate dipped fruits, I find that's like kind of a hit. Like people are like, oh, this is really like, who doesn't love like a chocolate covered strawberry? You know what I mean? Right. Or like, the banana too, like that feels like ice cream almost. So like we'll freeze the banana and then you do the dark chocolate dip and then it feels like an ice cream, but it's just literally just a banana with some dark chocolate. I mean, it's like, so that's pretty good. There's all sorts of recipes these days for like the treats, people do alternatives for like their cookies and their pies. I don't know that I would call those, I mean, there are ways to make things lower calorie based off of your ingredient choice that still feel and kind of taste somewhat similar. But I think for me, I would generally say that the bigger issue is, just to echo what I said at the beginning, the bigger issue is not actually the one-off. Like, I don't care if you have grandma's like famous pie, like go do that. Like, it's okay. If one-off is fine. But if you're taking home 3 pies and you're eating, a slice of pie with every meal for the next 2 weeks, that's probably going to do you in. If you just have a slice on day of, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. If you have a slice of pie with like 2 scoops of ice cream, it's really not that big of a deal. But it's when you have repeated excursions across weeks that you really start to see some damage. So I really don't care as much about like the healthy substitutions on day of if you're planning around it appropriately. But if you do need some, I think for me it would be like being mindful of the cream and the butter, doing like some substitutions for maybe like the mash and the sweet potato. I like those. And then also the fruit-based desserts, I think, go a long way too.
But I also, I agree. I feel like if you're craving something, because when you try to eat other things in place of it, and then you still sometimes end up eating that thing that you originally wanted, it's like you might as well just have eaten that first,
Yeah, or like it feels unfulfilling. Although sometimes, I'll give you an example. I love apple pie and pumpkin pie. And I used to always like to eat it with like, I don't know, like ice cream, a couple scoops of ice cream, and I want to have a slice of each. So for me, what I do is I really love like the keto whipped cream. It's like one of my favorite things. I actually like it compared to like regular whipped cream. And so for me, because I like ice cream, but I don't like need it, I would rather have 2 slices of pie instead of 1 slice with ice cream. I'd rather do 2 slices and put my keto whipped cream on it. And you know what I mean? Because that's just more fulfilling for me. So I think you can make small changes if it works for you. You know what I mean? Like, I have to have the pie. I don't have to have the ice cream.
This is popular in the bodybuilding culture. It may not be applicable here, but it just kind of reminded me. It's called protein fluff. Have you ever heard of this or made this?
That sounds
No,
familiar.
great to know.
Okay.
But
It does sound familiar.
The recipe is basically like 1 part protein powder, 1 part fruit. It's got to have like a high, I think it's pectin that and like some gums. Sometimes people will add in like a xanthan or guar gum to like thicken it up. But you basically just throw this in a stand mixer and just let it go for like kind of an extended amount of time, and it'll turn into like an entire bowl, literally like this big of, they call it protein fluff. And when you eat it, it tastes somewhat similar to like a flavored whipped cream. And it's going to just basically, the macros are basically going to be like, 20, 30 grams of protein. And then like, I don't know, 15 to 30 grams of carbs based off what fruit you used. Probably only like a couple hundred calories, but you eat this entire thing and your stomach just feels absolutely completely satisfied after this. But I've seen some of them will pre-make this and then they'll like add that as like a fake whipped cream to some of their things. And that kind of feels pretty nice.
when traveling, what are some go-to snacks or meals you recommend packing to avoid unhealthy choices on the road?
Okay, so it's going to depend on the duration and it's going to depend on what's actually going on. So if you're traveling and you're traveling for holidays and maybe it's just like a 1-day holiday, but you're going to be there for a few days, I usually like to actually have food delivered to my hotel in advance and just like a Postmates or Instacart, whatever kind of thing. And I'll just have them deliver like yogurt cups and just like other like healthy food items that I can just quickly have and ready to go in my hotel room. And that's really easy to do. And hotels are perfectly fine with holding on to your food for you. And you can just have it ready to go. Because sometimes that stuff is hard to pack. Like you'd have to check a bet. Like, is the yogurt really going to hold across the entire plane flight? I doubt it,
I probably wouldn't do it because it's like yogurt.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so if it's something that we want to pack, I usually am a fan of bringing with me some pre-portioned out protein powder. If vegetables are going to be suspect, like if you're traveling overseas or something and you don't know about the quality of the vegetables, I may pack a greens powder with me as well too. I think those are two like supplement type food items that I'll bring with myself just to make sure my nutrients are covered. On the more, traditional things, I guess. Protein bars, very easy, very packable, very travelable. Dried fruits, nuts, trail mix, that kind of thing. Those also tend to go a really long way. And then, then adding in like the protein powder, the greens powder, and then pairing that with like I will buy some local. I don't like to check bags, so I usually try to be light, and I'm not going to just like bring my entire kitchen with me. But those kind of. Oh, and what's another one? Jerky. I like jerky a lot as a good travel item. Those are probably all my favorite ones. Yeah.
I was gonna say, are there any staple items that you order, like when you say you have it like delivered to the hotel?
Yeah, it'll depend on the duration that I'm there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and also like the hotel accommodations, right? Like if I only have a microwave in my hotel room that I'm working with, then I need to be a little bit different about what I order. Maybe I don't even have a microwave. Maybe it's just a fridge, right? Or some places you'll have like a whole little kitchenette situation and you can actually make some stuff. So if I'm doing longer trips, I pretty much almost always get a hotel room that has an actual kitchen in it. So that way I can make my own foods, and I'll have delivered to me. Most commonly, I'll have delivered to me for sure the breakfast, because usually breakfast is something that I'm doing myself in the hotel room. Like I'm responsible for that. And then most of the actual eat outs are happening either at lunch or dinner. So like I always get for myself, like I'll order some eggs, maybe some like some kind of sausage and maybe like a bell pepper. I'll just order like some very basic stuff that I can kind of go through for the week. I like to order some fresh fruit. I like to order yogurt. Yogurt cups and fresh fruit like go a long way. And then if I don't have the kitchen set up, then sometimes, but I do have a microwave, then I may order some like meal preps from like a local meal prep company. And that way I can just quickly zap those. Pretty much every major city has a meal prep vendor these days. Mm-hmm. And you can just get literally like 5 delivered to you if you're going to be there for 5 days or whatever. And it's like, okay, hey, cool. Just zap it in the microwave. Boom. And now I have my breakfast and my lunch handled, and I'm taken care of. And then I can, I know that I did what I needed to do for the first part of my day. I'm going to go be social and do the best that I can for the social situation. Mm. So yeah, either local meal preps or like I'll just do it DIY, very easy stuff. Yogurt is a personal favorite of mine, and eggs as well. I love eggs.
Yeah, definitely.
Same.
Yeah. Say if you just didn't have time, like you just you just got off your routine, you couldn't prepare all those things, and unfortunately you have to go to the airport now. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you suggest at the airport to get for snacks?
Yeah, I mean, most airports will have like these little like kiosks or stands or things like that. And I've even seen in some airports they have like these healthy vending machines too. But you can certainly build out a meal, like even out of like just that stuff, like outside of restaurants. But a lot of airports also do have restaurants these days where you can pick up like, a sandwich or like a Chipotle bowl or, those kind of things. If it's like, okay, what am I going to do out of these like vending machines / like kiosk little vendors? A lot of them do have these like little like protein boxes now, like in the little coffee shops. Like it'll be like some eggs, some nuts, and some fruits or something like that. A lot of those coffee shop little places will also have like a pre-made veggies and hummus kind of thing as like a snack or a side. They'll all of them have like bars you can get. You can be like, all right, here's a fruit bar, here's a protein bar, and here's a bag of nuts, and here's my meal. I don't know. Some of them have pre-made salads, like little chicken salads. You just like check the expiration date though, please. There's pre-made sandwiches that are there, trail mixes, depending on where you're at. They'll have like the yogurt and nuts, all that kind of stuff. So airports are very accommodating if you actually look. A lot of people these days, they give me the airport as an excuse. They're like, oh yeah, I'm traveling. I've been to many airports. I travel all the time. I even like if you just genuinely spent 2 seconds looking, you can find healthy options. Yes, there are so many unhealthy options that surround you at an airport. And so people get kind of tricked into thinking that that's the only thing that's there. But if you're strategic and you actually just plan it out a little bit, and you're like, okay, hey, I'm going to look for the salad, I'm going to look for the sandwich, I'm going to look for the nuts, I'm going to look for the protein boxes. You can find them very easily, and they're all readily there in every single major airport that I've ever been to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when people first step into the airport, like all rules are broken. Like it'll be 8 a.m. I'm gonna get myself a drink.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for like something just really terrible that you normally don't eat.
Bloody Mary, McDonald's, like all this kind of. I'm like, come on, like right next door to that was a Chipotle. Like, why not? Why did you do this?
Right.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you have to like prep yourself when you're traveling. Yeah, like you said, there's so many other options that you can have there. So it's really, no excuse for that.
Or be self-aware enough to like plan accordingly, kind of like what Casey was saying before about going to like holiday events. If you know that like when you go to the airport, you have to get drunk before you get on the plane, or you have to eat like whatever. Or for example, I have a pretty severe nut allergy and I get stressed out with some of the like nuttier options. So I tend to go for like protein dishes. And so I use the airport as my excuse to like have a nice burger because that's what I want to have. And I know that it's like, I know I'm not going to have a peanut allergy reaction, but I allot my calories accordingly. So just plan ahead so that you don't have that cycle of guilt that starts post travel.
Because I do work with a lot of people who just are constantly traveling, like they're maybe flying, I don't know, 3-4 weeks out of the month kind of thing. Like they're just constantly always out. Genuinely believe that if you're traveling for work, it should be business as usual. Like everything should be the same. You should be sleeping at the same time. You should be eating at the same time. You should be maintaining your workout regimen. Everything is business as usual. If you are traveling for pleasure, I don't care unless you care. Like if it's holding you back from your goals, then I care. But other than that, like if you're traveling for pleasure, this is a vacation. This is a happy, so for holiday situations, if Thanksgiving is the day, I don't care. Kind of do what you want to do. But the other days, if you're still there, right? Like if it's not strictly pleasure, maybe it's halfway between, like you should try to maintain your normal routines as best as you can. And in general, that just helps with like the metabolic processing of a lot of the foodstuffs and, the issues of jet lag and all that. So you do want to be mindful and just say, okay, hey, like I'm going to have my fun day. It was Thanksgiving. I'm going to have a fun day after that too, because, I'm with my friends and I'm with my family and we're together and we're going to go to this, amusement park or something. Like, okay, cool. Like do that. But try as best as you can to maintain your normal routine where possible.
Yeah. And then one question I had, say you're not at a hotel, say you're staying with family. How would you navigate the meal situation there? Like say it's, day after Thanksgiving, day after Christmas, like how would you go back into that routine? Like, would you have meals delivered to you? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways that you can navigate that, and it will depend slightly. So if you are staying with family, you can on the front end game plan and say, okay, well, I've been eating eggs for breakfast every day. Like, just want to make sure that I can do that for my breakfast, or I'll go to the grocery store on my way to the house and I'm going to just buy myself some breakfast items. And then, I'll take care of it. And then one fun way to do this too is I'll be like, hey, I'm going to make breakfast for everybody. And then like if you do it that way, then they're, oh, that's cool. Casey's like stepping up, he's a very mature, strapping young lad these days, like whatever, it's like you're like, hey, I'm going to make food. And then all of a sudden now you're in charge of the food options, and now everyone loves you and you get to stay on your diet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know I am, though, guilty sometimes where like when I step foot, if I ever have to spend the night at my parents' house, like I kind of fall back into child Casey, and like I just let my parents take over, and they can boss me around and everything. Like, wait a second, I'm a full grown adult now, but anyway, yeah. So I get that sometimes, but if you can pre-plan for it, usually that's the best case scenario. And I would argue that actually, to some degree, it can be, if you don't let the mental get you, it can be easier than staying at a hotel, because they should have the normal fixings, right? Like most houses have healthful breakfast options, have vegetables laying around, have healthful proteins and things like that. So like if you're being honest with yourself, you should be able to make and or eat a normal healthy meal at someone's house better than being thrown into a random hotel where you're kind of like, oh, I guess I'm just going to eat at whatever the cafe is here. I'm going to go out and try to figure out what I need to eat. Like at a house, you should be able to game plan a little bit better, because it should have all the fixings there for you. It's usually because it's a social situation that you are running into issues, and not because of the actual food availability. And then when you acknowledge that, okay, it's because it's a social situation that I'm running into issues, then we just kind of have to fall back and defer to our old game plans. It's like, okay, well, same things that we were talking about for the holiday situation are also applying here, because my brain is treating it like a holiday. And so if you're treating it like a holiday, then you got to prep for it like a holiday with all the previous recs. But if you have the mindset that you're going to treat it like a normal day, then it should be pretty easy, actually. And it's going to save you money too, because you're just eating someone else's food for free. So it's strictly speaking, it's actually easier if you treat it as a normal day, I would say.
Yeah.
Very
I love
true.
that idea of suggesting to make breakfast, because sometimes people don't think about that. They're like, well, I'm here. I'm the guest. Like, I don't need to do anything. But God, your parents would love that. Like, they would love to be treated, love to be,
or
fed.
With them. Yes.
Yeah.
They love it. It's like such a game. Like they will love you so. Like you get so many brownie points when you offer to make. Like if you're staying at someone's house, you're like, let me just make everyone breakfast. I really want to do this nice thing for you. Like everyone all of a sudden just loves you, and if you're just, who cares if you're really doing it for you? Everyone's going to love you a lot for it. And it is a genuinely nice gesture. Like if they're letting you stay on their bed, I mean, come on, like do something nice for them too.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll add is for people listening that have children, I think that it's important to set expectations with your kids in advance, especially if you're going somewhere and staying somewhere, right? So for example, I have 2 boys. We go to stay with my mom. My mom gets the urge to make them every possible breakfast food on the planet. Right. So before we go, I usually will say, all right, boys, I know you guys want to make breakfast with Nana. What are we thinking? And they'll say what they want to do. And then I make them pick a specific day for it. So I'll say, okay, it sounds like one of you wants pancakes and one of you wants to have waffles. So Elijah, why don't we do pancakes on Friday? And Max will do waffles on Tuesday. And then I message that to my mom. That way, those are the only 2 days that she's going to make that stuff. Right. Because if every morning she feels like she has to make pancakes and waffles, it becomes overwhelming, and it puts a little stressful for me and my healthy eating habits. So setting those expectations with my kids are then, Max is then excited for his Tuesday, Elijah's excited for his Friday, and I can plan around that. I can maybe make breakfast. I can maybe, when I get there, I usually go to the store and get stuff for us to have for breakfast the other days. And then also it's a little less hard on my mom, even though she loves it. So talk to your kids beforehand so that you can kind of give expectations to whatever grandparents want to spoil them while you're away.
I'm taking notes right now because I'm genuinely worried about that for when our little one gets a little bit older. I strongly suspect that grandparents on both sides are not going to adhere to, dietitian dad recommendations for their child.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they just want to spoil your little one, and it's man, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great suggestion. I'm gonna keep that in the memory bank.
Oh yeah, because they're gonna want to spoil your little munchkin, especially because she's the first. Is she the first grandbaby?
Yeah, she is. She is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. On one side, yeah, she's the first on the one side, but on the other side.
Oh yeah, they're gonna want to give her all the things.
Yes. Yeah. I'm nervous. I'm a little bit nervous.
It'll be fine. And kids are very malleable. So if she's been kind of doing her own thing with you guys at home, she's kind of gonna almost gravitate towards healthier options anyway, right? Or at least have certain things that she likes. I feel like every toddler has like one fruit that they like, right?
Yep.
Like my kids love like blackberries and strawberries, so she'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, I feel like I'm like looking forward to going to Thanksgiving dinner because I feel like ready. And I'm sure that all of our clients that are listening and all of our listeners in general are going to feel this way. This was so incredibly helpful.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, try to provide some value, but as long as someone got some, then I feel good about it. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a blast on my side being here, and more than happy to, come back again if you guys want.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. In my
Please.
head, I already want you to come back so that we can do in the new year, so that we can talk about kind of like starting a diet and like starting a new routine and how you get into that and where you start. So I think that'd be really cool to have you on for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good topic, and everyone, it's the natural segue, right? After the holidays. All right, let's do it.
Everybody wants to do it, right? The beginning of the year.
Yeah.
All right, Casey. Well, this was great. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy your baby, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah. Take care of both of you.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, give us a rating, and share with your family and friends who might find it helpful.
And remember, we love hearing from our listeners. Connect with us on our social media channels or shoot us an email with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics. Don't forget to check out our website, www.thewayinandpeace.com, and to follow us on Instagram at thewayinandpeace.
If you need one-on-one help with your weight loss or wellness journey, book a private consultation with us. The A-List Clinic can be reached at www.thealistclinic.com or on Instagram and TikTok at The A-List Clinic.
And my clinic, Lifefire Weight and Wellness, can be reached at www.lifefireweight.com or on Instagram and TikTok at LifefireWeight.
Thanks again for tuning into the Wayne Podcast with your hosts, Katie and Zarina. Until next time, take care and be well.
The information in this podcast is for general information only. It is not intended as medical advice and should not be relied upon as a substitute for medical consultation with a qualified medical provider familiar with your medical needs.